talking about it. I'm trying to get there, and I'm probably going to fail on the way a few times. But eventually, I truly believe I'm going to get there.
Welcome to the Council of Dudes podcast. I'm your host, Vinny Brusco. I am a father, a husband, the founder of Agora Social Club, a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, a certified life coach, and a facilitator of the Council of Dudes men's group. This podcast is here to help you tap into and follow your golden thread, that feeling that pulls you forward to become the best version of yourself. If you're someone who's into personal development and self-help and is looking to live a life of more alignment, then this is the podcast for you. Subscribe to the channel, click the notification button, and follow along on the journey of the show.
This is Joe from Ice and Iron. Make sure you check out the Council of Dudes podcast.
And here we go.
We met at an ACE workout.
Yes, we did.
And the first time I met you, first I saw you and I was like, that guy's fucking cool.
I know.
I instantly felt, I was like, I want to be his friend.
Felt the same way, brother.
I looked over, I was like, that guy's fucking cool as shit. I want to be his friend. And then obviously we started talking afterwards. And then quickly, very quickly, it was just like this energetic alignment in a way that was just very authentic and genuine.
Right. I think we opened up to each other almost right away.
Yeah.
I try to do that with a lot of people. You know, when I first meet them, be as authentic as I can, you know, see if they open up.
Right.
And if they don't, and they seem pretty surface, you know, I know this might not be, you know, the time right now for us to become friends, but fast friends for me are when we meet, I open up a little bit about myself, they open up, we hug, and now we're here.
It's a weird thing because you have to kind of cast out that bait with people and see if they nibble, if they bite, what the response is. But it's also hard because in a sense that once you realize that they're not engaged in that manner, it's so hard to kind of re-engage with them, especially when you get to a point in your own journey where that's the only type of camaraderie you want, is that personal development, you know, enlightenment journey, right? That self-awareness. That's a different whole, you know, thing to chew on when you're doing it by yourself. But then when you engage with the world and they're not responsive, it's like, okay.
I mean, because I know for me, the energy I feed off is authenticity. Like, you know, everybody I know, everybody I'm close to is going through some shit. And they're very open to me about it. And I'm open to them. Whenever we talk, we always go pretty deep.
And there's no fluff before.
No, nothing.
It's not like, hey, like we'll get to, I think we do check some of the standard proverbial boxes. How's the family? How's work? How are those things?
Which is important.
Which is important because those things dictate some of the other, most of the other things that are around in your life, right? But then we'll kind of, everything's good, thank God, all good, yep, everything's good, okay. Now let's move on to like the other things, right? Not to say that they're more important, they have a different level of importance, and as long as we both communicate everything's good on these two fronts, that's like, all right, good, let's get to some of the meat and potatoes.
Yeah, I mean, even the other day when we spoke, you know, you asked about the family, and I opened up to some stuff about what's, you know, going on with me and my wife.
Right.
You know, nothing horrible, nothing crazy, just stuff that I think is important to share with a friend.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't even think we talked about it. I think we said we were going to share some of it here. And stuff,
yeah, for sure.
I think it's important for men to talk about their relationships with their wives or their partners.
Yeah.
You know, it's, that's a journey.
Yeah.
That's a true journey. And always kind of evolving.
Yeah.
You know, as we change as men and as they change as women, you know, we're kind of meeting new versions of them and they're meeting new versions of us a lot.
Yeah.
And like sometimes that can be a little scary for one another.
Well, also when you introduce children, right? And I know you have one, I have two.
Super easy. So easy.
Oh, yeah. So it's like one is one thing, two is another. And then those dynamics, because I have a girl and a boy, so those dynamics change based off of the relationship you have with the child, what they have with the child, what the both of you have with the child. And it changes the entire energy of the household to the point where, you know, there were a few Sundays where I literally looked at our family, I was like, we all just can't be together right now because our energy is like when the four of us together, it's like we need a little bit of time to get our mojo together.
I mean, that's why, you know, my son, he had his friend from school over and, you know, his parents came. Really cool people. You know, they have two kids. I have one kid, so I'm asking them about like how that's going or whatever. And, you know, they said, it's crazy. And I said, well, what do you guys do to get out of the house individually? And they were kind of like, you know, they didn't really have anything. I was like, you know, in our house, it's super important to be able to get out and do something on your own.
Yeah.
You know, at least for a couple hours. That's why, you know, even just going to the grocery store on your own. You know, you bring your son if you want, whatever, just a little separation.
Yeah.
Is fantastic.
Yeah. And also when you have, you know, when you have two, in my particular case, it's important to take them out as individuals.
Absolutely.
Like me and my wife, like, all right, you take her, I'll take him, or I'll take her, you take him, or you have to kind of separate that just because you do need to give them that alone. And then just me with both of them or her with both of them. And, you know, it is so important to be able to carve out that time for yourself and then as, you know, kind of different versions of the family because it feeds the energies in new different ways.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, me and my wife we're still on this journey, and she's been with me through so much. And, you know, to see where we started to being parents together it's just incredible, you know. And sometimes I don't give her enough credit. So I wanted to make sure today, you know, I carve out some time to really give her some credit.
All right, we'll make sure we do that. Yeah. So, yeah, obviously we met. It was an instant bromance out of the gate. What brought you to this version of yourself, to be in this space where obviously you're a part of ACE, you're doing the cold plunging, you're facilitating that, and you're an integral part to that community. Right. But what brought you into this version of yourself that you're evolving to?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm the kind of guy where I'm trying to change this about myself, but I tend to really only change when shit hits the fan, when there's a rock bottom involved. And I don't love that about myself. You know, it's just kind of the way things have been in my life. But I hit a rock bottom. You know, I've been on a journey of sobriety since 2013. On an awful lot of relapses. And, you know, I thought I had it. And, you know, me and my wife had a kid together. And, you know, I was working out, but I was lonely. You know, no community. No guys around really. And, you know, me and her got into a little scuffle and I ended up going out and drinking for the first time forever. And it turned out to be a really, really bad situation. And, you know, I mean, just to dive into it, I guess.
Sure.
You know, I went out, I had drinks, had way too many because I'm an alcoholic and I'm an addict and I thought I had it. And I woke up the next day in my car, in the town I grew up in, had no idea how I got there, with my best friend and my brother, who was, my best friend's a detective, knocking on the car door. So, you know, I get out of the car and I'm like, what the fuck's going on? I look down the street and it's my wife crying. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't even know how I got here. And, you know, my friend who's a detective is holding a Narcan because that's how people know me. They thought I was out and I could have overdosed on pills, heroin. That's what they were thinking. That's what I did to them. That's the state I put them in. So, you know, me and my wife had to separate. You know, my wife stands on business. And, you know, when I first met her, I had to go to detox in the first 3 months. And she right away was, you know, I love you, but I won't stand this behavior. So, you know, we separated, got to my mom's, and, oh, man, did I want to relapse. And I had a real long, hard talk with myself. And I said, this is going to be the part of my life where either I really dive deep into myself and come out on top and change everything. Or I do what everybody thinks I'm going to do and just fuck this up and be selfish. And I'm sitting there and I got my phone, I'm looking at pictures of my son and I'm crying. And I said, I'm not going to fuck this up. I'm going to get back in my house. I don't care how long it takes. And I started doing research into health, physical and mental health. And, you know, thank God for Nick and Sean at the time. You know, we kind of grew up together in the restaurant business. And, you know, we kind of disconnected. Like I said, I was kind of on this like lonely journey. And they stepped back into my life. We all started cold plunging together. We started working out together. And everything almost immediately started getting better by making that decision to, you know, take care of my physical and mental health. And that's kind of why Ice and Iron started. You know, it was helping me so much, committing to the cold plunging every day. You know, I finally committed to something. You You know, at the time I was working in the city in construction, and I was doing the 4 to 12 shift. So I'd get home midnight, then first thing in the morning, on about 4 hours of sleep, I'd go back up to Mayapack, because I was at my mom's at the time, spend that time with my son. He would go down for his nap, then my in-laws would watch him. I'd go back down to my house, I'd hit my cold plunge, I'd work out, go to work, and I kept that routine. And Nick and Sean were holding me accountable. You know, we were sending videos to each other, you know, cold plunging, and are you working out? I was checking in with them. They were checking in with me. I hadn't had that. You know, they really cared. And thank God for them. I love them so much. And, you know, slowly but surely, I started to become this version of myself I never thought I had. Never. And, you know, obviously now I'm back at home. And things aren't perfect, and they're never going to be perfect. You know, my wife has found me overdosed. She saw me have seizures. I've let her down so many times. And those scars will always be there. And, you know, sometimes I forget that. You know, what she still sees sometimes, and how I've hurt her. And I become impatient. You know, just recently, you know, work's been great. My new job's been great. I work with my best friends. I'm making a lot more money. Everything's great. My hours are better. But it's demanding as far as being on the phone. I'm in sales. You're in sales. You know that. Availability is huge.
Yeah.
And I've been coming home and just walking in the door and saying hi to my son and opening up the laptop and being on my phone and scrolling. And, you know, my wife said, you know, you don't even say hi to me when you walk in. And I completely dismissed it, calling her basically ungrateful. And I didn't realize how much that hurt her. I really didn't. I thought because I'm bringing in the dough, because I'm sober, because I'm, you know, doing all this, and look what I do, you know. Look how much money I've been putting in the account. This is a girl that has seen me broke and broken so many times. She doesn't give a shit about that.
Yeah.
She just wants a hello when I walk in the door. And I realized that I'm causing a lot of chaos, and I'm all over the place, and I can't just be. So all this work I've been doing, I'm starting to let go of it a little. You know, I'm starting to see, like, I can't just be. I always got to do something. I got to be on my phone. I got to be making calls. I got to be on the move. I got to be doing this. And the way she sees it is, you can't just sit here with me and RJ. You always have to be moving. And, you know, my best friend who's helped me get sober many times, and he's still sober, me and him been out of AA for a while. Randomly, he has no idea about this, that I'm going through this. We go to the Kensico Dam to go movie night with the kids. And he goes, dude, just to let you know, I'm back into AA heavy. Not for drinking, you know, I'm causing a lot of chaos in my house. I said, holy shit, dude. I'll see you at the next meeting.
Yeah.
You know, and it's amazing because I'm in AA for the first time, not because I feel like drinking. Because I have this disease that I haven't been taken care of. You know, the ACE has helped me tremendously. It will always help me. I'll touch on that more, but I need more.
Yeah.
You know, I'm the kind of guy who just needs more help.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, so.
If you build, he will come.
The point is, don't lose your dinosaur.
A lot of things come up for me. So I want to go back a little bit to the idea that you need to hit rock bottom. Because I do feel as though, and you hear it a lot in stories of recovery and stories of coming out of that and going on the journey of self-help, of people hitting rock bottom. And what is it that makes you think that you have to hit rock bottom? Because, you know, I believe that you don't have to. I think that you could realize that the plane's going down and you could pull this thing up in some way, shape, or form. And it may just be a mindset thing. It may just be, you know, an environmental thing, who you're surrounded by, or it may just be will and determination. I don't know. Yeah. But what is it that you feel or you identify that you need to hit rock bottom? Obviously, you did, right. But that obviously, that was a byproduct of you having this lens that's the way I have to rebound.
I mean, more so, you know, it's just my track record and just how things have always been.
Yeah.
You know, in order for something to change in my life, I had to hit rock bottom. But you're right. I am at the point now where I'm trying to right the ship before it sinks.
Right.
I'm trying to take care of that and recognize that. And that's why, you know, being in these groups, being with Ace, it helps me recognize that more. You know, it makes me more aware of my behaviors, my habits. You know, people holding me accountable is huge. Yeah. Starting to catch it sooner. Yeah.
I think as men, we identify so heavily in what we do and what we bring to the table. And I think that for me, what I've come to the conclusion of, and I don't want anyone to take this out of context, but I think that men we don't have an intrinsic purpose, right? For women, and not all women, I will say, they are put on this earth and they have the most important job on the planet. And that is literally having the ability, not saying they all have to, they have the ability to create life. Right. And there's no greater purpose on a survival level, on an animalistic level, than just reproduction, right? That is on a fundamental animalistic level, that is the most important thing, right? Self-preservation. Agreed. We don't have that. So we look to all of these other worlds and realms and 3D validation points to give us a sense of purpose. And yes, I agree with you. So often we identify in that, look what I'm doing look how hard I'm working. I do it all the time. It's like, you don't realize the things, like I'm busting my ass over here. And it's exactly to your wife's point, it's like, I don't care about all that, right? Like, that's all great, and thank you. But that's not what's important. And I think it's so important to have those people that check you back into that reality. Because if I jokingly will say, like, if it was up to me, like, we'd be at home doing cleaning or getting things. My wife is the one that's like, we need to do these things. We need to go on date nights. And the more I lean into that and realize that she's right in that regard, it does alleviate some of that pressure. But again, I think that we do have this outside idea that we need to be doing and creating, especially when you're in this personal development, self-help, you know, I want to get to this version of myself, but then you get there and it's just like, all right, now the next version of you. Right. It's an ever-moving target.
Yeah, no, I agree. That was very well put, Vin.
Thank you.
Very well put. Yeah, I think it's more straightforward as far as why a woman's here. You know, beyond, no, there's so many other things.
Of course.
Directly. Right. And I think for men, you know, being able to protect and being able to serve is very complicated. Yeah. It's very complicated, and your ego can get very out of control. You know, and that's what I'm trying to catch, especially these days, is she doesn't care about anything else. Right. She just wants me to be present. My ego is telling me that I don't have to do certain things because I do these certain things. When at the end of the day, what matters, you know? But yeah, it's a journey, man. And when you're with somebody who's been with you through so much, you know, like seriously, like I love my wife so much, and I don't feel like I talk about that enough, you know. That's why, you know, when we spoke, I said I want to make a point to talk about my wife.
Yeah, no, I think it's important to recognize that, and I think that, you know, we get caught up. I know I do get caught up in this this future, right? This future version of us, and what I struggle with very heavily is staying grateful but aspirational.
Right, exactly.
Like, how do I stay grounded and grateful in the reality that I'm living, but then also have goals and aspirations for the reality that I want, right? And, you know, yesterday, you know, I came home, I was like, I'm going to take the kids in the pool, don't shower, and we'll go in the backyard. So I take the cover off the pool, and it's fucking green. And I'm like, nice. Fuck.
Good
right?
job, Vin.
Yeah,
you had one job. You had one job.
Exactly. So I'm like, all right. So then I get, you know, whatever. So I get the sprinkler going, and they're going, and whatever. I was actually wearing the grass, but they started being kids, and it was great. And then, you know, then my son, of course, carries it. I'm like, stop, you know, whatever. But I realized that it's not about, it's about the whole thing, right? But it's the bookend of a green pool and yelling or firmly speaking to my son about, stopping with the hose. But in between that, I got a glimpse of what's really the most important thing in the world. My 2 kids making water slides and being creative and being present. Mm-hmm. And I just watched, and I was like, and I was videotaping them, and I was like, oh, it's about like those individual moments, right? The bookends are the bookends, but it's like the substance in between the green pool and the hose. That's what's important. Yeah. Like, it's the middle part that's really so important, and that lends itself to, like, even the journey, right, of building a business or being an entrepreneur. It's like, yeah, the starting point's this and the end point's this, but it's like, it really is all in the work.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, being grateful can get complicated because it's like, does that mean I'm satisfied? Like I just have enough? Or am I being ungrateful by saying I want more? And I get caught in that headspace too, all the time. These days I'm, really trying to write down in my notes what I'm grateful for, not the easy gratitude. Yeah. And that's one thing I found is getting my thoughts on paper really helps. Even if it's just the notes on your phone, it really helps. It really helps get it out of your brain.
One of the most, one thing I do with coaching clients, I'm like, I give them a journal. As soon as we start, journal and a pen. Mm-hmm. And a lot of their assignments are rooted in journaling. And the idea is, I don't care what I'll give prompts at times, right? But the overall thing is, you just need to create a relationship with your head, your brain, your mind, the pen, and the paper. Like, this is my journal, right? And there are times where it's long format and I have something I really need to unload and dump. And sometimes it's just a sentence, I feel great, I feel terrible, I'm upset, I'm depressed, this made me happy, this made me sad. And it might be a deeper dive, but sometimes it's just 1 or 2 lines, right? I mean, just to move that energy out of your body.
And not overcomplicate it.
Yeah.
I've read somewhere, not read, I saw somewhere, somebody talking about how if your mind races before you go to sleep, whatever you're thinking, put it on paper, get it out of your brain and onto paper. And I really want to start doing that more. I was doing it for a while, especially when I was separated from my wife, because going to sleep was like a fear at that time. Like, I'm going to be thinking about everything. And I was putting it down on paper, and it really did relieve some of that. And it's similar to prayer.
Yeah.
Sometimes just praying a simple prayer, that gets it out of your head.
Yeah.
That puts you, you give it up. That's all that is when you pray or you put stuff down on paper, you're just giving it away. Yeah. Saying, here, this is everything.
Yeah.
Help me.
Yeah, and prayer before bed, prayer as soon as I wake up, those have been, the days I do it, they are definitely starting and ending the day in just a better tone, just a better cadence to my day. Mm-hmm. It's just starting from a much more peaceful existence than starting in like the, oh fuck, I gotta, the go.
When we came to see Chernow when he was on the pod, one of the big things I took away was how he smiles. Cheesy smile every morning. I was like, holy shit, man. Yeah. I love Chernow, and the way he tells the story is great. But that little nugget. Yeah. I did it this morning, and it's really weird. Yeah. It's really weird, but I'm usually waking up with, oh man, I gotta go pee. I gotta blow my nose, and already, here's work, and
stressed. Stressed.
Just smile. Yeah. You woke up and smile like ear to ear.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep doing it. I'm waiting for the day Daniela turns over. She's like,
what are you doing?
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, I got this, don't worry.
Yeah.
I got this, don't worry. But yeah, I'm going to start, I love the Serenity Prayer from AA.
Yeah. It's funny. I always forget it, but I know the gist of it. And just the other day I was saying it. I was like, it's
perfect.
It is perfect. It is perfect. It really does just put things right back in perspective, right? It's just, I can't control everything. No. That's the reality. Yeah. But we do, especially as guys, especially when you're in this personal development space, like the idea that you can move in a certain way that's, yes, there's an alignment piece, and when things start clicking, you see it, you feel it, and you're like, yes, this is what it's about. But the reality is, it's like, that is just something else that's beyond you. Right. And either, whatever direction it's going in, it's easier said than done. Yeah. Whatever direction it's going in, you're really not in control over it.
No. And what you are in control of, control it. Right. If there's anything.
Right. Right. And it's always the simple things that you really, like the very immediate things, and it just keeps you super grounded. I have this this daily journal, it's called a 5-minute journal. Mm-hmm. And again, I've did it very consistent, fell off, whatever. Mm-hmm. But it was funny because at one point I was doing, it gives you some prompts, and I was like, am I doing this wrong? Because it was like, I would start and be like, you start in the morning, this is the first thing you do? And it was like, what are you grateful for? And it was just always these really simple things. Like, there's like the manifesting aspect of things where it's like, all right, speak about the things that you want as if you already have them, right? Like that's like one of the old things in the Bible. It's like, pray as if you already have the things and they'll be presented to you. So I was like, maybe I should be like journaling that way. But for like the first week, it was just really basic, simple things like my family, my health, my wife, my kids, and then I started, all right, let me like evolve this, because sometimes it does feel like, we talked about this on the Churnout podcast too, is like, sometimes it does feel like I'm just checking a box of gratitude, right? I'm just like family, health, I woke up today. And it's like, I am grateful for those things. Of course I am. But it also feels like it can't, like, to me, gratitude should be something deeper.
Oh, yeah.
It should be a much deeper feeling.
Yeah, and that's why, when I do my gratitude list, I'll check the boxes, but then I try to go deeper. And I could overcomplicate that sometimes. Yeah. And I never want to, stuff like that, I never want to overcomplicate. And that's why I love the Serenity Prayer too, because it's so simple. Yeah. I never want to overcomplicate things to where I feel like it's like real like work. Right. Yeah.
What is it about the Serenity Prayer that was introduced into AA, and why do they correlate so well?
I mean, I'll just say it real quick.
Yeah, please. I was going to actually ask you to.
God grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
That wisdom to know the difference is like exclamation point at the end of that. The wisdom to know the difference. Yeah.
I mean, it nails it. It nails it. Grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change. There's acceptance. There's things that have been done. You can't change them. Right. Have the courage to change the things that I can. Yeah. There's courage involved in that.
And courage to change the things that I can is such a generic term, right? Because like, again, it goes back to things like nothing. You can't. Nothing's in your control, seemingly, right? You're giving this over, but there are things, and it takes courage to not only interface with them. Like that's one step of the courage. It's just to the reality or the self-awareness to say, this is where I am. Here's the courage. Just to interface with that, just to have that dialogue with your internal takes courage. But now to take actionable steps towards making those corrections or those changes is a whole different level of courage.
But the ending is the real the wisdom to know the difference between the two.
Right.
You have to know the difference. You have to know what you can and you can't control. Because a lot of my anxiety comes from the past.
Sure.
I carry a lot of that with me. And especially, because my wife's been through so much with me. Sometimes I look at her and I just like feel bad. Yeah. I just like feel bad, and, I understand now that how I'm living my life is, I'm taking action to change. I'm not just saying I'm going to change. I'm not just saying I'm sorry anymore. Sorry is a fucking lame thing to say, man. Even, with like young kids, I'm sorry, I'm going to change. I just say, show me, show yourself. Words don't mean shit. I talked a lot about change. I talked a lot about being sorry. You got to show it.
But the wisdom can only come from having the ability to see the hindsight, right? Yeah. Like you can only gain that wisdom through trying to change things that you can't control and then not taking the courage to change them.
Yeah. I mean, it also comes from, being in groups and learning. Yeah. That's where you gain a lot of wisdom too. Yeah. You start to think you're the only one. You start to think that, well, maybe I can control this. And then there's somebody you meet who's like, dude, I've been there, man. I've been there. You're better off just trying to work this way, and that's why I love men's groups so much. Especially when you meet people that just lock in. Sean's dad, rest in peace, who was one of my favorite people in the world. The one thing he really showed me was, even when I was a young kid, he actually taught me how to wait tables. Amazing guy. But when you would talk to him, he would lock in on you. Yeah. And when you would talk to him about something, he would keep it on you. He wouldn't make it about himself. He wouldn't answer in a way that was like, I know it's hard for you. And I've been there, and look how bad mine was. He would just hear you and just respond in a way that was, a lot of the time when, people are sharing, and this is something I learned in AA too. It really means a lot as a man to be able to listen to somebody, really listen, and still keep it on them, as opposed to turning around and making it about yourself and belittling their problem. And basically saying, like I said before, like, yeah, I know you were drinking a lot, but how many car accidents do you get into? Because I got in like 10 car accidents. Somebody's telling you an issue or a problem, that's their biggest problem, regardless of how small it might seem to you. And as a father, as a husband, as a brother, as a friend, the ability to be able to listen and keep it on that person is such a manly, stoic thing to do. Not make it about you.
Yeah.
Help them.
Yeah, that's one thing that I've come to learn is in my household, and I'll ask whether it be my wife or my daughter. My son's a little young for it; he's 6, but I still do it with him. I'm like, do you want my advice, or you want me to listen?
Yeah.
Which one is it? Or do you need a hug?
Yeah.
That's cool too. Like
sometimes, as much as we know, we don't have to.
Just today.
Hey, I'm so wise.
Yeah, today I was my daughter, and she was like, she was just telling me something, and I was offering the perspective, right? Because you, again, especially as parents, right? As a dad, it's like I feel compelled to let you understand this lens that you may not see, right? And that's the power of groups like ACE, like the Council of Dudes, right? Like that's the power of getting around people to offer you your blind spots, to show you, oh shit, you're right. Like, and that's what I was so drawn to when doing the men's group, is like, oh, we're all from different walks of life, different demographics, different, tax brackets, but yet this guy is going through the same thing this guy's going through. Or we had a meeting one time where there was one guy who was going through something with his daughter, one guy went through something with his father, and they were having a conversation as if they were the other person. And everybody in the room, like the energy was very prevalent. And as a facilitator, I felt compelled to stop, but I was like, no, these guys need this right now, and they need to have this kind of having out with each other in a really weird way, but it was very impactful. But the point of it is that, when you're able to hold space for someone and just give them the ability to express themselves without having to add your insight, your perspective, your lens, but we're so drawn to helping and solving and problem solving, especially when it comes to our family, we want to give them the answer. We want to say, no, like you're not seeing this thing. But so often they don't need you to do that. They just need you to be present.
And I mean, a lot of the time it's your ego. And the ego is such a strange thing, because all of a sudden, somebody's coming to you with an issue, and now you unintentionally, look how bad I had it. And that really makes, it's happened to me so many times in groups where I just feel like, okay, so I guess my problem wasn't that fucking bad.
Right.
Now you've made me feel kind of like an idiot. You got to be careful with that.
Yeah.
Dave is great at that too. Dave is great at going to him and him just listening and keeping it on you. That's one of the reasons. I mean, Dave's an incredible guy, man. That's one of the many reasons why I love him so much.
Yeah.
Is he's able to just listen and keep it on you.
Yeah. And just again, holding that space for someone to unpack whatever they need to unpack. And then I think the other part of it is just having the discernment, not judging, just showing up and being like, as they are, and accepting them for as they are, and just realizing that they're human, and their version of this problem may be your version of this problem, but just expressed in this totally different way. It's totally different, but at the essence of it, it's the same thing.
Yeah, because, we're very open with other men about, our stuff and whatever, but some aren't. And when they open up like that, it's very important that they don't feel that it's a terribly uncomfortable thing for them if they're not used to it. And the last thing you ever want to do is make somebody feel small or make their problem feel small, because they might shut down forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why, facilitating those groups and, not being sure, is this like okay that one guy's playing a role and the other guy's playing a role. It's a tough job.
Yeah.
You know, you're trying to facilitate a group and hold space and create this environment where people are getting better, but like it's going off the fucking rails. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough.
But I think it's an energy thing, right? For me, it's an energetic. Again, I've called it, you know, following the golden thread. But when I was in one of those meetings, I felt this thing come out of my chest and go through the room. I basically saw it. And I remember I told the story a bunch of times. I went home. I told my wife, I was like, "Oh, like I feel so fulfilled right now. Like this is like nothing I've ever experienced before." Yeah. And I don't think that experience is rooted in ego. I think that's a calling to me, right? That's something that's pulling you forward to take action. And it's proven itself to be accurate, and I do my best to follow it at every chance, but it can very easily get tied up in ego. And again, the ego is so elusive. It masks itself in these different ways, especially when you're in personal development or you're in self-help, because it's like it just adapts and molds and speaks to you in these different voices, and you're like, oh, am I being authentic? Is that my ego? Where is this coming from?
Yeah, I mean, like true leaders, their ego is checked all the time. You know, a true leader has the ability to change if needed. You know, I went to Dave, Sean, and Nick and made some recommendations about the dinners. And not only did they hear me out, they were like, okay, you run that part of it. We think it's a good idea. So not only did they hear me out and were willing to change a few things, they gave me now the responsibility of holding those changes. And it was like, wow, man, like that is incredible. That the ability for them to not be like, hey, you know what, man, like this is the way it's run. It's going great.
Or the other way is like, okay, great. And now they try to implement that thing, but it doesn't have the same, you know, authenticity or the same essence that you would deliver it in. Like realizing your strengths, and realize when you're around people that are, you know, creating and cultivating and further enhancing the experience for everybody. Because very easily, any one of them can be like, nah, we're not doing that. Or, all right, yeah, okay, and then just brush it to the side. Yeah. But to take it and then not only take it, but now say, all right, you do it. Like, and not in a dickish way.
Wasn't ready for that. It's like in typical Dave Regina fashion. Good idea. It's on you.
Yeah.
Be prepared.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. What got you into the cold plunging? Was it about the cold plunging that kind of drew you away from the other stuff?
You know, there were a few things. You know, when I was back at my mom's, I was, you know, looking for things to do. You know, listening to Rogan a lot, and Rogan started cold plunging. And I don't think it's corny. I think it's, you know, a lot of those guys are great guys to look up to.
Sure.
You know, and I said, all right, let me try this.
I've never met a lot of my mentors, so.
Yeah, right, exactly. So I was like, okay, let me try this, man. I could afford a 150-gallon
trough,
a Rubbermaid trough from Tractor Supply. And,
same.
I got in and immediately felt the relief of doing something hard that I didn't want to do, but I did it. And I realized that has been getting away from me. Because even though I was working out at the time, you know, I was doing regular bodybuilding style workouts. It was very comfortable, you know, chest tries, back buys, leg shoulders, same thing over and over again. And it was in the, you know, when it came to winter, I was like, I can't believe I'm still fucking doing this. Like, I am still at 5:30 in the morning. Getting out there in 10-degree weather and getting in this thing. Who am I, man?
Yeah.
I'm this fucking guy. It felt great. Like, I'm this fucking guy who does this shit. Fuck yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
And that, you know, and that's why, like, cold plunging has great health benefits.
Yeah.
It's not why I do it.
Yeah.
At all. It's not why I do it. I do it because, you know, chosen suffering. I mean, if you really want to, I'm not going to say become a man. If you really want to find out who you are, chosen suffering is a great way to find out who you are.
Yeah.
You know, are you the kind of guy who, you know, says, you know, is the person who says, are you who you say you are?
Right.
You know, are you the kind of person that says, okay, I'm going to do this at 5:30 in the morning, then I'm going to do this? I never did that. I mean, I always, the day before, would have a checklist of shit I was going to do, and most of it was hard, and then I would never do it.
Yeah.
I check that shit off now.
Yeah.
You know? And, you know, chosen suffering, it will, it's so hard for me even to put into words what it feels like to do hard things.
Yeah.
You know, I know people talk a lot about, you know, getting uncomfortable and all that, and it's been said so many times, but it's so true.
Yeah.
It's so true. And to do it with other men is how you build bonds. You know, people think, you know, you meet guys at a bar, you know, you do some blow with them in the bathroom, and now, you know, you guys are friends. You're not fucking friends. You're not friends. The friend is that a guy that is going to work out with you at 5:30 in the morning really hard. Really hard. And you're going to find out a lot about each other because what you're essentially doing primitively is preparing for war together.
Yeah.
You're finding out if this is the person you want to go to war with.
That's a great way to look at it. You said it earlier, we were talking about before we started recording, but I train at 6:30 in the morning on Saturdays. My job changed, so I had to make some schedule adjustments. And, I was telling the group, like, yeah, I'm going to come later or whatever and leave a little bit early or whatever. And unanimously, like, oh, no, we'll just come earlier.
Amazing.
And I was like, no, you guys don't have to do it. It's like, it's Saturday, right? It's hard enough to get up at 6:30 on a Saturday. You have kids and all that stuff. It's like, no, we'll if we can, we can. Yeah. Like, I'll try to get there earlier. Everybody. And that does say something. Like, when they said that, I almost started crying literally in the text. I was like, okay, guys, thanks. Yeah. Like, because there is something about that chosen suffering and putting yourself, because you're creating the book of experience to draw from, right? When you go into a cold plunge, like I remember waking up one morning and having to take out a wrench to break the ice on my cold plunge. I was fucking hammering it, and I was like, "What the fuck are you doing? Like what? Like who are you?" And it's weird because I stopped cold plunging a while ago. I haven't done. I do the cold shower thing. It's whatever, but even though I don't do it, I still have that body of work that shows that I am capable of being that guy. Maybe it's being expressed now at waking up at 4:15 to go work out in a totally different way, but I'm able to extrapolate the energy and the essence and the experience to say, oh, I can do hard shit. And I may have had a season of my life where that wasn't what I was doing, but I'm able to pull from the season that I did do that and now use that same lens to move forward.
Right. I mean, even like for my experiences of, being a drug addict is like, I always thought I was that guy. And I've proven to myself from that body of work, even if I was to stop, I know I'm also that guy. I know I'm capable of that. It's important to know that what you're capable of. And that's why you
good and bad.
Good and
like
bad.
The devil on your shoulder and the angel on your shoulder. It's good to know both of those abilities, the light and the dark, to know that, and Jordan Peterson talked about it, and he got scrutinized for it, but like he said something along the lines of, I'm going to paraphrase, but if you were in Nazi Germany, chances are good you would have been a Nazi. And people are like, that's horrible. I would never do it. Like, really? Like, really? You're sure about that? Because you don't realize how capable you are of following whatever it is, right? Until you're faced with that, right? So you have to be able to put yourself in that position and go, maybe I would be a motherfucker in some way, shape, or form. But I also, in the depths of that darkness, I also have the opposite of the heightened version of the light.
Right. I mean, when you find out the versions of yourself and you're able to pull from that, for me, I found one thing that I've always been looking for, peace. I found a lot of peace in doing hard shit. Just knowing that I'm capable of it is something I mean, dude, I used to live on the couch. I am by nature a lazy fucking guy.
I think everybody is.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I mean, I always thought growing up there were some guys who had it. Maybe they didn't, it was just what I told myself. It was the story I told myself.
Yeah.
But, I find a lot of peace now in knowing who I am.
Yeah. And that can only come from experience and time.
Yeah.
The first time I did the cold plunge, I did it facilitated, and I was in it for 5 minutes.
It's a long time.
It is a long time. And I got in it, and my mind went to two places. Fuck, this is cold, I want to get out, or complete stillness.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I'm going to lean to the stillness because me sitting there going, oh, get the fuck out of here is not serving me in any way, shape, or form. So let me just zone, and I zen out when I get into the plunge.
That teaches you a big lesson. Freaking out never works.
Freaking out never works.
And I'm guilty of this, and I'm still guilty of it, but I'm more aware of it. When you're about to lose out on your wife, just know that when you freak out, you're only going to make shit worse.
Yeah.
When you're calm and you're still, like you are in that cold plunge, it'll get better.
Yeah.
And it does.
Yeah.
But freaking out in any situation.
The kids are the nerve. They could really, I can go from the most loving, kind human being on the planet to fucking a lunatic in a snap.
I was changing my son, and sometimes what he does, because he knows it drives me nuts, is, we're putting on his clothes, and he just turns into soup and just falls down, and, his limbs, and it's like, dude, come on, I got to do your legs. And he just turns around and he smiles because he knows it got to me.
Yeah.
Don't lose it.
Yeah, it's so hard. It's my hard. Son, like, he'll step up, like, I'll be on my knees doing something, like, whatever, and he'll get out and he'll step on my Achilles.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, it doesn't hurt enough, but it hurts enough where I'm like, you motherfucker. Like, son of a bitch.
What I'm starting to become a lot more aware of is, he tends to do that stuff when I'm on my phone. And I feel so bad about that. I feel so bad when I come home and I go to my phone and, you know, a work text is now turned into I'm on TikTok. And then he like throws a ball at me. And then that turns into, you know, some bad behavior maybe.
Sure.
And I just want to, you know, put him in timeout or something when it's like, was it because you were on your phone, you weren't showing him attention?
Right.
Yeah, he hasn't seen you all day? Fucking probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
It's never, you know, I've said this before on the podcast, but it's never them.
No.
It's always you. It's always you being reactive and you not being in a situation where they're kids, right? Like they don't, I know like people are like, oh, no, the kids don't have a mean, as they get older, it changes for sure. But at that young age, it's like they only want one thing and it's you and it's your attention. And so often when my son is in that state, it's because he wants me.
Yeah.
You know, he just wants me. And what better way to be grounded and really be grateful and be present and sift through all the bullshit than being like, wow, it doesn't matter, you know, and it doesn't matter what you brought into the house. It doesn't matter who's texting you. It doesn't matter how important any of this shit is. Like, you're the most important thing in their life right now. And what a fucking blessing. Yeah. And as my daughter gets older and she gets more consumed by the world, you know, you see that slowly start to go away. And it's gut-wrenching. Yeah. It's completely gut-wrenching.
I mean, it's, you know, growing up and my parents getting divorced at a young age and, you know, my dad not really being around and not having that structure, it's, you know, I know how important it is to just be there. Mm-hmm. And you don't need to be super dad, but just to be there and be present it changes everything. You know, it'll really, really change the kind of person you're raising if you're just there. Yeah. To the best of your ability. Right. To the best of your ability. And nobody's perfect. Yeah. Nobody's perfect. But, you know, I love raising my son. Yeah. I do. It's challenging and it makes, you know, marriage challenging or whatever. But it's the best. You know, watching him grow up and, you know, taking him fishing and doing all these things that I never did with my dad, you know, is so incredible. Yeah. You know.
Welcome to Agora Social Club, the Westchester's hub for guys to gather, connect, and unwind. In the last 6 years, I've been facilitating a men's group called the Council of Dudes. And within that 6 years, I've realized that guys need a place where they can get together, connect, and build community. A place that's not the gym, that's not jujitsu, that's not the bar, but a place where guys can come with no ego and grow and develop together. So here we have our chess table. We're gonna be having monthly chess lessons and our take a book, leave a book library. Some of these I've read, some of these I haven't. Quantum physics to personal development to fiction. We also have our record player area. In the last few years, I've become very obsessed with jazz music. And if you don't know how to play vinyl, no big deal. It hooks up to your phone via Bluetooth. We have artwork from California to local artists. We have these small little work tables. So if you want to hang on the couch and get some work done, you can just come pop them open. And we also have our little workspace here with quotes from Muhammad Ali, Albert Einstein, Theodore Roosevelt. We also have our coffee bar, small fridge, and more quotes and artwork over the wall. Head on over to agorasocialclub.com, sign up for our free 7-day trial, and with that, you will get a key fob. Scan your key fob, and you have access to this space from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days a week. So if you're a guy in the Westchester area and you're looking to gather, connect, and unwind with like-minded men, head on over to agorasocialclub.com.
It really gives you an opportunity to reset the table in all ways, whether you had the best dad in the world or the worst dad or a non-present dad, whatever version of a dad you had or have, it really gives you the opportunity to give them or, you know, whatever child capacity you have, the version that you needed, right? It's so powerful. Well, it's such a powerful role.
What I was telling my mom the other day was, I remember like my mom at my age and my friend's parents at, you know, being 37. Yeah. And, you know, it could be a difference in times or it could be a testament to the people we surround ourselves with, but we're doing a pretty fucking good job. I mean, look at us. Yeah. You know, we're in good shape. You know, we are, I know for me and you, like we love our kids. Yeah. You know, and I'm not to say that our parents didn't love whatever. It's just that I feel like this era of dads is a different era. Yeah. Especially the kind of guys we're around, you know. Yeah. Like I watched Dave with Callie, you know, and that's, you know, Dave's been a big influence on my parenting. You know, and that's, you know, that's the magic of being around, you know, other men with kids. You know, I see you with your kids and, you know, how much you love them. They love being around you. And then I see, you know, I love John Zanzarella and his daughter, his son. They're so funny. But he brings his daughter to workouts. Like, look at us, man. Like, we're good dads, man. I mean, I know we could be hard on ourselves, but we're only hard on ourselves because we give a fuck.
Yeah, and that's the other part of it, is like having that lens of being difficult on yourself is only there because you are a good parent.
Yeah.
Right. And it's so important. You know, I tell my wife this all the time. Like, and it goes back to the idea of like doing more. Right, because there does come a point where you're like, is it ever enough? Is it ever enough? But, you know, waking up at 4 a.m. or grinding in this or doing that, I tell her this, and she understands it. And I'm like, it's important for them to see this.
Yes.
Like, it's important for them to see me come home on a Saturday morning at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, with my ass handed to me, beaten, sweating, tired, shower, and then go to work. Yeah. Like, they need to see that.
Absolutely. And like, you know, my wife works out, I work out, and my son knows the term going to the gym.
Right.
Like, he'll say, like, is mommy at the gym?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is daddy at the gym? All right, RJ, I'm going to the gym. Okay, have fun at the gym. It's
Yeah.
like, that's awesome for him
Right.
to see that. It's so important because this is going to be what they think is normal. And like, especially having a daughter, you know, like, this is going to be what she's going to compare it to.
Yeah. Yeah,
you know,
it's funny, Mike. You do that project at school where they have to, like, you know, Father's Day, and they write like Dad's favorite thing, Dad's this, Dad's that, and they wrote for my favorite food was steak, and I was like, all right, fucking perfect.
Yeah.
And they said Dad's favorite dessert, and my daughter goes, my dad doesn't eat dessert.
Oh.
And she were like, of course I eat fucking dessert, dude. Like, I'll crush cookies and ice cream and shit. But that's how they see me, and I think that is, you know, when as I've developed a relationship with God, and I've gone on that journey, which is a whole other ball of wax. But I've come to realize the relationship that I have with God, or the relationship God has with me, is this real, true father-son, in my particular case, relationship. And I'm going to do my best to not botch this, but if you can love yourself the way you love your children, which to me is the true definition of unconditional love, right? And you could see yourself the way your children see you, then you'd be able to just the slightest sliver understand the relationship you have with God.
Interesting. Wow.
And to me, when I thought that, I was blown away. Because the relationship that I grew up with God in the Catholic Church was white beard, you're bad, I'm counting all these things.
They're telling you, this is God, by the way.
Right.
So whatever you're thinking is not God.
Right.
This is God.
Right, exactly right. And there's all this rope and all this red tape that you have to navigate around and all this shit. And then once I start to lean into like my new realization of that relationship, when I put it with that lens on, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
And Dave said actually on the podcast, he said, if your kid came to you, and it goes to like pray as if it's already done. If your kid came to you on Monday and said, hey, Dad, can we go to the park? And you're like, yeah, on Friday, can we go to the park? And you're like, yeah, of course we go to the park on Friday. Sounds good. Then on Tuesday. Then on Wednesday. By Thursday, like, dude, stop fucking asking me to go to the park. Like, we're going to go, right? But that's the relationship. Like, it's a true, in my experience and what I'm currently going through is like, it's a true relationship of unconditional love, and talk about being seen. Yeah. Being seen on the deepest, most truest, fundamental level prior to your existence.
Yeah. I mean, my relationship with God is, you know, I would say the best thing I ever got out of AA was that all they want you to do is try to understand that God, whatever you want to call him, is just a power greater than you, and that he loves you, and he forgives you, and he knows what's going on. You know, this is all part of the plan.
Yeah.
You know, and that was easy for me to understand. And you know,
why was that easy for you to understand?
Because it didn't complicate it. You know, religion was always so complicated to me.
Yeah.
You know, when I started to see the way things were working out, and I started to see that the universe will provide if I provide for the universe, it works like that. You know, if you try your best, there will be a return, and it might not be always the way you understand it, but he will provide for you. You know, and it might not happen immediately. You know, it's going to be delayed a lot of the time. But it was just so easy for me not to put a face on God and just understand that there is a power greater than myself out there, and he loves me. Yeah. That's it.
And letting go to that is really, it's hard, right? Because the word that often gets used in that is surrender.
Yes.
Right? And as men, I can only speak for myself, the thought of surrender, it's not that it's like, I will never surrender, but there is this thing inside of you. It's like the word itself, to me, is so defeatist, right? But and this is just more of a recent thing that I've come around to, is the idea of, is like, it's not to me, and maybe I'm wrong in this context, I don't know, but the idea of surrender is just really the idea of having the willingness to accept that it is in God's hands.
Yes, it's a control thing.
Right. And once I I put this lens on, it's like, oh, it's part of God's will. Like, that's what I've now been saying. I'm like, if this is God's will, then let it be. Right? Like, and, and that framework to me is so much more, I dare say, comforting than being like, I must surrender to God. Right? It's just like, it's just God's will. And that in its own right is a form of surrender.
Yeah. And then, you're at an East dinner and a guy's there whose son recently died from cancer, and he's still there. I mean, I'm like, that is a guy that understands God.
Right.
I mean, as a father, I mean, you meet a man like that, and it will change you.
Yeah.
It will change what you're feeling ungrateful for.
Yeah.
It's a test.
Yeah.
That'll test you.
I mean, I told you about the thing I went through, a few months back, and that's another one where it knocks the complete wind out of you, and it just completely reframes your life. And and again, anytime I feel
that situation reframed your kids' lives too. That was. You want to talk about it?
Yeah, no, I've spoken about it before, actually, a few episodes back. But yeah, I went through, obviously, long story short, I was going to pay a parking ticket, and a gentleman came to the courthouse or the police station, said his daughter wasn't breathing, and she was obviously not conscious. And my kids were there, and there was a whole unfolding of that playing out, which was a complete emotional roller coaster. But anytime I feel as though, anything, I mean, any form of I just have to check myself with that reality of someone else's life, that their life is radically different now, and in the worst kind of way, in a way that I pray to God I never ever have to even consider. And it doesn't matter what age, you know what I mean? Like, if I'm 90, I don't want, that's one of the worst things you could experience, is your child at any age going before you.
Yeah, and a lot of that comes back to getting off the phone, man. You just never know. You never know. And you're saying your daughter's getting older, and now the world's kind of consuming her, and she's obviously meeting new friends, and you're slowly not becoming the person she always wants to be around. And I don't want to let this time slip with RJ's 3, that I didn't totally take advantage, and that I was on my phone a little too much, Yeah.
But I think it goes back to our previous point that I don't think that it will ever be enough. Even with her or with him now, I'm like, all right, he's 6, she's 10. I got 4 more years of not fucking it up, right? But even if I do my absolute greatest that I can, and I do believe I am, right? Maybe there's a couple. I mean, there's definitely room for improvement. But overall, right? Even that, I'll look back and go, I do believe that, because even looking back, and I'm like, was I present enough? Did I do enough? Did I do enough? I don't know. And I think just intrinsically, you questioning that says you did a lot.
Absolutely.
Says the type of person, because the person who doesn't think that way with that lens clearly doesn't have the hindsight or the perspective to realize that they could have done more, or the reflective aspect of saying look at all I did do.
Yeah. And I mean, all the effort we put into our kids, they know. Yeah, such a journey, man. All of it, and really being on the journey of self improvement and the growth mindset adds such a layer to it, because not everybody's into it. Not everybody, and sometimes that's hard for me to even fathom.
Dude.
You don't want to get better. You're just good. And
that seems like such a relief to me, to a degree. To a degree,
to a degree, except when
Yeah, of course.
I don't think so, man. I
say that, but then the reality is, if you really ask me that question, it's no.
I think every man deep down, no matter if they say the men's groups are stupid and you guys self-absorbed or whatever, deep down, they know they want to be in better shape. They know they want friends that are going to hold them accountable, that'll be there at 3:00 in the morning. I have friends that I will show. I really try to be the number one call if shit went down. And I have, I have friends where if shit went down, they would be there. And I spoke to that about my wife. That if Nick ever called me and there was something with his daughter, I would do time. And that's just who I am. And she knows that. And I hope, people I love know that. Like, I'm willing to sacrifice for you and your family because I love you so much.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's just true, man. I mean, I always want to be somebody they know that they could call if there has to be bad shit done. Because I think a lot of people, we say I love you on the phone. I say I love you to all my close friends. That whenever we leave somewhere, I love you, or when we get off the phone, I love you. So I think a lot of people are like, oh, look at these guys, man. They're hugging. I say I love you. I mean, don't get it twisted. We're still fucking bulls.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think sometimes that needs to be remembered. Sometimes is we might be these guys that say I love you, but if you were to harm one of ours, those guys that say I love you and hug, it's not going to be hugs.
Yeah.
And that's part of it too.
Yeah.
That's why. That's a big part of why you train.
Yeah.
And whether you know it or not, it's to remain dangerous too.
Yeah.
There's some dangerous motherfuckers.
Yeah.
And that's important.
I think it's interesting because when you start to go into that personal development and you become inundated by it, and you surround yourself by the majority of people in your life are in that space. When you start to be around people that aren't, you're the pariah, right? Like just the other day, they were at work like, all right, do we want cheesesteaks or pizza? And I was like, I would get a cheesesteak from that place. They're like, all right, cool. So you're in? I'm like, oh, no, I'm not eating cheesesteak. Yeah, right. They're like, all right, what are you going to have, a yogurt granola boy? I was like, yeah. Yeah, probably gonna have a granola, a yogurt. No granola. I'm off carbs. Right?
Yeah, so, right. No.
Yeah, like not this meal. But you become the oddball. You become the outlier.
But what's amazing, and this doesn't always happen, is so you're the oddball in the beginning. You're the guy who doesn't stop working out. You're the guy that's eating Greek yogurt 3 times a day to get your protein in.
Right.
And all of a sudden, there's other guys in the office are asking you about kettlebells.
Right.
And then you're putting people onto Pat Damiano's Bellplex. Shout out Pat Damiano, the kettlebell king. And then they're doing kettlebells. Right. Then they're at the gym with you.
Right.
And then they're eating Greek yogurt.
Right.
And they're not eating sandwiches. And it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, there's some purpose here.
Yeah.
There's some reason why we talk about it. Because at the end of the day, if you want to keep it, you got to give it away. And it could sound like a little crazy when all you're talking about is this and all you're talking about is that. Well, that's how much it means to me, and that's me trying to give it away to you. I'm not talking about how jacked I am. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm talking about why I do this, and why I want you to do this, because we whether we work together every day, you're a family member. I care about you, and I'd love for you to do this. And if you want to learn how to use kettlebells, I got the guy.
Yeah, that's the other part of it, is having the resources and the ability to say, like, oh, I know someone who could do that. I know someone who could help with this. Yep. I mean, for me, floating was that for a very long time.
I got to float with you.
Let's do it anytime you want. That because it was so impactful for me. I mean, it still is. I mean, the last time I floated, it was like an hour, and I got to like the last maybe 10 minutes, if not. And it was a good float.
How long did you do it for?
An hour.
An hour, nice.
It was like the last 10 minutes or so, I would say. And what it was like an air duct, like a I think of Bruce Willis in Die Hard coming out of the air duct. Nice. And I went up the air duct onto like what would seem like a second floor. So I went through it and up and came out. And when I went up there, I was standing on nothing. Right now, this is just a first-person view, and I'm surrounded by the grid, the green traditional out of the matrix grid, cool. Green on the floor, green all around, and I'm looking around. And I mean, it's as real as this room. And I hear a voice, which I believe is the voice of God, and it says, "This is reality. What you experience is not reality. Go create your reality." Ooh. And I walked out, I got chills just saying it. I walked out there, I was like, I got the mission. Yeah. Right? I got the mission. Got it. Yeah. Received.
And all it really took was for you to be, your sensories to be totally gone. Just to be. That's the thing too about me is like, and that's why I like cold plunging. That's why I'm sure I'd like floating is I need to be forced into a meditative state sometimes. Yeah. Like meditating for me has always been very difficult.
It's difficult for everybody though. Yeah. And everyone says it. Well, I'm not a meditator. I don't know how to meditate. There is no way to do it. It's like journaling. It's any type of practice. I believe any type of practice that you engage in to make yourself better does not have to look or feel a certain way. It just has to work for you. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, when I want to get out of something, I'll overcomplicate it. So
don't we all?
To get out of meditating, don't we all? I've completely overcomplicated, and I can't do it, but it's good for you now. Right. But yeah, like the cold plunge, and I'm sure floating is as similar as it forces you to don't freak out, just be. Because I was saying in the beginning, it's so hard for me to just be. So being in a forced state of just being present,
there's nowhere else to go.
There's nowhere else to go.
There's nowhere else to go. Mm-hmm. It's the first 20 minutes is I call it like the dust settling. Like all your monkey mind, your to-do list, your bullshit, your humanistic experiences, all that stuff is like, and then all of a sudden after like 20 minutes or so, and if you're like an avid meditator, you could probably cut that in half. But 20 minutes or so, all of a sudden it's just like everything starts to come out, and you interface it in this way that it's so real. It's so beyond. I mean, I've had experiences in there that, you know, just talking about them, you'd be like, what the fuck? And they're real. They're not, I mean, the voices, the experiences, the feelings, the emotions, the waves of highs and lows, they're real. They're real emotional frequencies that you experience. And sometimes you do, to your point, like, you need to remove yourself from everything and just find that that peace.
I mean, I think it's important for everybody to do that every now and then.
Yeah.
To be forced into a state of just being.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah, I'm in for a float. I think I'm well overdue.
Yeah, and that's what happens. I won't do it consistently.
But like, do you see how you talk about floating?
Yeah.
Now I'm going to go float.
Right.
You know, that's why it's important to talk about these things.
Right.
You know, in front of people.
Because floating might change your entire version of reality or give you something that changes the lens of how you perceive a dynamic in your life that now puts you on a completely different trajectory and sets you on a different course for your betterment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All those things are so important. Even, you know, something like that was weird that, you know, started with when I started using kettlebells and steel mace a lot it put me in a flow state. And I you know, I love like conversations. I can get into a flow state pretty easily. But working out, I never really found that peace with just bodybuilding style.
Yeah.
And sometimes when I'm in it with kettlebells or I'm in it with the mace, I do feel like a little meditative. I feel like the music doesn't matter anymore. I'm just moving.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why, like, you know, I recommend to people, if you're just doing a bodybuilding style workout, that's great. And if it works for you, that's great. But getting into functional fitness and really flowing like that, even doing jiu-jitsu and flowing into jiu-jitsu, like to get into a flow state when you're working hard is great too.
Yeah, talk about forced discomfort.
Oh my God.
So
hard.
I will jokingly say, I said this one, I was like, I put myself in really terrible situations, and not on purpose, but I just end up there, and I'm like, the poise that you learn to gain and the poise that you realize you need to have in those situations is unbelievable. And I don't practice as often as I'd like, but to see the person I was when I first started, where someone would mount me and I'm like, you know, you're literally panicked. You are quite literally panicking, to someone completely, you know, has your back, hooks in, and they're trying to squeeze your throat, and you're just like,
What's even
okay,
more humbling,
I'm calm.
And even more of a feeling is when you're 220 pounds and that's being done to you by somebody who's 150 pounds.
That will ground you.
That will ground you.
That will ground you very easily. You said before, it was right after you said about you couldn't be still, but you always kind of wanting more.
Yeah.
Right? Where do you think that comes from?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, could be from some trauma.
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of it was, you know, growing up, you know, I never felt like you know, my mom is the best. You know, she had her hands full with me and my brother, and she worked so hard to give us a nice life. But, you know, she did work a lot, and I always feel like I had somebody to go to, you know. And I think like the need for more was looking for some kind of validation to be recognized in that way. And, you know, as I unpack all my shit, you know, a big part of it was growing up without structure. Like, your kids being able to come to you with something is huge. Yeah. Not every kid has that. I didn't have that. I wasn't able to go to my dad with, you know, something that was really bothering me. I, you know, bottled it up, so I needed more. I needed something to cover that up. Right. So I needed drugs, or I needed a new car, or I needed a girlfriend, or I needed this to, you know, cover that up. That's probably it. That's probably why, you know, I have the state of needing more. Yeah. You know?
I think that, and validation is such a loaded word, because I think that it gets a bad rap because, you know, we use it in the context of like, we need validation, you're seeking validation. But there is something to validation, and maybe it's just a corrupt version of and view I have of it, but there's something of validation that's important, right? Because it's a feedback loop of your efforts, right? If you were working out or you were taking jujitsu or you were doing X, Y, and Z, and there was no feedback or there's no confirmation of your progress, you would be in a state where you're like what the fuck? Yes, it's all about the work and the journey and all those wonderful things, and that's all hyperbole.
But getting a belt is important.
But you give me a fucking stripe on my blue belt, I'm like a little kid. I'm excited.
You've been recognized.
Yes,
you've been recognized.
You've been seen, and your efforts have been seen.
Absolutely, and yeah, I think that's a lot of my trauma is not feeling like I wasn't seen.
Yeah,
and then in turn looking to be seen for anything, and then when I wasn't seen, I was like, what the fuck? Like nobody gives a fuck. Yeah, but that's something I'm aware of with myself, and that's something I'm aware of with my son. I don't, pat him on the back for every little good job, but as he gets older and when he does have these achievements, they will be recognized. His hard work will be recognized by me.
And some kids need it more than others.
Absolutely.
Some kids, you could say it a million times, and it's still, but it really does. You come to a point where I think I'm not there yet. You have to see yourself, beyond what the world may say, because the world, there's that old expression, there's a million different versions of you out there, right? You see me in one way, Nate sees me in a different way, like my kids, my wife, my parents, everyone has a lens of how they see you. And those are all seemingly important, but there really isn't anything that's more important than how you see yourself. And it goes back to that waking up and smiling thing. Like, it's cheesy, it's overkill, but it's impactful because you're reaffirming to yourself that you could wake up in this state, that you could exist in this energetic frequency that is present and joyful. There's a book, I think I have it here, by Laura Shapiro. It's called Good Morning, I Love You. And the whole premise of the book is she went through some stuff, and then she wake up every morning, look in the mirror and say, good morning, I love you. Good morning, I love you. And I just got chills saying it, like, good morning. How often do you look at yourself and say, I love you?
Not enough.
Or look at you and go, wow. Like, if I look at myself in the mirror, I'm like, oh, you got to get bigger here. You got to work out there. You got to push harder. Why did you eat that fucking burger the other day? Right. Did you need the fries? Did you need, you know what I mean? Like, instead of being like, wow, I have a fucking functional body. Like, okay, I'm in good shape. Like, how often, and it's hard because, something I struggle with is people asking me how I'm doing, and I downplay it to like, I'm all right, or like, because you almost don't want to come off like, I'm doing fucking great. Right. Like, I'm excited. Like, that you downplay your own joy.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's a complicated question to answer too, because you want to answer authentically, and then you don't want to come off as ungrateful. It's asking how somebody's doing. It is a complicated question to answer. Yeah, it is.
My new answer is depends on the category.
That's a good answer.
And all the important ones are good. And that's it. If you want to go into it in other categories, want to know which categories could use work, what's doing great, what's doing okay, what's doing good, we could dive into the specific lanes of that. But overall good. But there's some specificities there that we could dive into. But the important stuff is good. Yeah. But it's a loaded question. But it's one that we just dismiss so easily. It's like, how you doing? And like we so haphazardly just go, oh, I'm okay, I'm good. Especially as guys, it's just like, hey, I'm good.
Yeah. Or you dump.
Right.
Or you dump, and then
you completely fucking.
And then you dump, explode. And then it's, you become that guy.
Right.
And that's also I see a lot, especially being in groups is a lot of look. I dump. Everybody deserves the right to put it out on the table.
Oh, it's so good. It feels good.
It does. But what's really important is what are you doing about it? Be able to follow up with that. You gotta, and that's why action cultivates excellence. Is something that, that phrase means so much to me because there wasn't a lot of action in my life, man. There really wasn't. And now becoming a man of action, at least in your heart you're trying to do something about it. Yeah. Fuck what anybody else sees. Fuck whatever. If you know in your heart that you're making the right steps, they could be small steps, even accepting that you're a drug addict or an alcoholic is the right step. Yeah. And I know that journey better than anybody. And I know sometimes if you're like me, it comes with a lot of fuck ups and a lot of relapses and all that. But just recognizing who you are,
And stop.
I have a question. So I had Frank from Reps for Responders on, and he referred to himself as a grateful alcoholic.
Yeah.
How do you ever recognize yourself as no longer being an alcoholic? I understand. I understand why. I do understand why.
No.
But do you ever give yourself the grace to move yourself past that I'm an alcoholic?
No, because it's not just I think people get confused a lot. Alcohol wasn't the problem.
Right.
My thinking is the problem. That's what needs to be checked. Alcohol is just the solution. Alcohol is what made that thinking feel better, the comfort. That was the answer to fixing, my sadness, to fixing my depression at the time. Being an alcoholic, being an addict, it's your thinking that's the problem. And
So what is saying I'm an alcoholic doing for you?
Just saying it out loud? Or
Well, just identifying as one.
It's affirming that, you understand that the way you think and the way you're able to justify things, and reminding yourself of who you are. It's important because...
But how do you move past who you were if you're always being tethered to that version of yourself by identifying it in the present?
Because the term alcoholic, it starts to move away from the alcohol part. That's an interesting question. How do you move away from it? I don't know if I want to move away from it. I think it's important for me to know that if I'm going to pick up a drink, things are going to go crazy every time. If I'm going to decide to anything mind altering, things are going to go off the rails. I think saying you're an alcoholic is always reminding yourself of that, at least for me. I don't ever want to think that say that, I'm Joe and the way I think is a problem. Saying I'm an alcoholic, saying I'm a drug addict is exactly what the problem is, because that's the way I think. Moving away from it would not be a good idea for me.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, I understand it in theory, right? But then I also think of how do you step into the next version of yourself? I did this program with a buddy of mine. He's a therapist in Colorado, Mikey Brackett, and it's healing the father wound. And it's this idea that you now, as the person you are showing up in this world, are still tethered to a version of you and you're making decisions that's still rooted in this version of you that no longer exists, right?
But that version does exist.
It only exists energetically.
Right.
So if you are going to show up in this new way, you need to tether that rope with that version of you so that you can no longer make decisions rooted as that person. Now, I understand the idea of you're not making decisions as the alcoholic, you're making the decisions as the recovered alcoholic, right? So I understand the idea of identifying as the alcoholic as the root of moving forward. But I think it's, to me, from the lens I'm looking at, there's well, how do you move forward if you're still identifying as that person? But that's just, again, but I'm also not in the throes or was never in the throes of addiction. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how it is to identify in that regard.
Yeah. No, I know. I mean,
you've moved away from it. Do you still get an urge or the feeling of I want it, even drinking Athletic Brew, does that bring up anything in you where you're or does it take the edge? What does it do for you?
It does. I mean, for me, it does nothing. It could.
So it wasn't the taste. It wasn't the thrill of a beer.
It was the idea of just getting away from myself. It was being so uncomfortable in my own skin.
Oh, okay.
That getting high and drinking, and I didn't care what the drug was, just to get away from my own thinking. But no, I mean, I'll always be an alcoholic, and I'll always be a drug addict, and I'll always have to work on myself, knowing that who I was there's still a version of that inside of me, and I need to be reminded of that.
Yeah,
I need to be reminded of, even though it's the past, if I don't treat my disease, and I do believe it is a disease, it could come out in the future. So
yeah, I get the idea of it's like a check-in with yourself.
Yeah,
it's like an authentic check-in with yourself, and knowing yourself on such a deeper level, and knowing what you need. I don't think there's anything wrong with identifying it. I'm just curious to know, and obviously you've done it, and you continue to do it to move past that version of yourself in a very healthy way, seemingly healthy, right? Yeah. There's some things that when you're I can't sit still and I got to keep on going. That's not the healthiest, right. And we're both victim of that. But, you've done it in a way that is healthy and is being able to be with yourself and interface with those things in a different lens.
You know what it is too? I want somebody, if they're an alcoholic in the room, to know that I'm an alcoholic too. Me and Frank are both alcoholics, and we're doing what we got to do, so change is possible. So you're also announcing it. You're announcing that, dude, I've been there.
That's powerful.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it too.
That's really powerful.
I think that's a big part of the purpose of it is letting the world know that change is possible. You're not alone. Like if I was to stop, considering myself an alcoholic and stop telling people that, I'm an alcoholic, I'm a drug addict, then, they wouldn't know. They wouldn't be able to come to me in confidence because there's certain things about alcoholics and drug addicts and certain things that we've been through and certain places our minds have been that only I would know. When people come to me and they're in the throes of addiction, I know exactly how they feel. Even if I wasn't exactly where they are, whether it be better or worse, I know how hard it is. Forget about the withdrawals, just the habit to get away from it. The idea of, being in this world without it and having to deal with real life is so fucking scary. I remember the first time I got sober, they call it the pink cloud, right? You feel after you're going through your withdrawals and, you're a couple months in, you start to feel great, right? And that eventually goes away and you have to start dealing with real world problems. But now is a year in and I was just looking at the sky and I just started to cry because I was so happy. And I was like, holy shit, man. Like the world is fucking beautiful. Just breathe. You're going to be fine. You can do this and you don't need to be high to enjoy these things because you convince yourself you do. You convince yourself that you have to be high to go to work. You convince yourself that, dude, I couldn't tie my shoes without being on drugs. Everything I did, I could, it was so hard. And then to relapse and have to go through it again, and then my wife have to go through it again, go through that war. And that's another thing about my wife, man. She's been through war with me. War. The trauma she has from all this is, I have trauma from it that I inflicted on myself, but the trauma she has, is so hardcore. And I think it's important for guys like me, Frank, and whoever else, and to make sure everybody knows that change is possible.
Yeah, I know a few guys who've been through the AA program, and they're all saying to me like, "You should read the book," because they're like, "You would love it," because what it's rooted in. It's it is this letting go and realization and the steps to it, and it's seemingly. The guys that have never been through it are all completely giving themselves over to the idea of it, right? Yeah. Because they see, and they're still, although they're in that recovery, right? It's like, I guess what comes up for me is like, it's almost like a form of cancer, right? I hate to say that because I understand that, but there's always this lingering underlying feeling that it has the potential to present itself again.
Right. And that's why, like, I'm causing this chaos at home and I don't feel like drinking. I don't feel like using, but I went back to a meeting because those people know the way I think. And they can help me, and it's an interesting time. I'm slowly kind of going back to AA a little bit, and I'm able to focus more because I'm not there to stop drinking. I'm there to treat my disease, And
do you think that when you say treat my disease, what is the disease that you're trying to treat if it's not alcoholism?
It's complicated, man. The disease of more, the disease of being self-absorbed, woe is me, everything like that. Not being able to be still, all that. Everybody in that room, especially the old timers, they relate to that. And now look, I'll say this, AA is not for everybody.
Why?
I don't know. I don't know. It wasn't for me at all times. It could be a little intense. It could feel like, it could feel a little bit like Catholicism in the way of like, this is the way it's done. This is the structure and this is the way.
So in that regard, in bringing it to a parallel to whatever religion, let's just say Christianity, do you find that is the way it's done and you had a reluctancy to lean into that, or were you able to find your own way and sift through it?
Both.
Okay.
Both. AA really, really helped me in the beginning. Really helped me. And it would always help me. Like I said, I'm slowly starting to get back into it. But I don't know. I know plenty of people that don't go to AA that are sober and they seem great. And
but did they go through the proper, air quote, steps to get to the point they are?
I don't know. Everybody's journey is so different. I don't know the exact process. I mean, I know they didn't go through the AA steps because they never went to AA.
Oh, they never went in at all.
No,
right.
no.
Okay.
Some people have never gone in, and they're still sober, and God bless them. You know, and
But they also might find their version of AA, right? Like they found their 12 steps, whatever it looks like.
They could find a men's group, and that got them through, and they found other addicts and drug addicts in there, or if not, just other men that were able to help them. And and that's why I always say, like, you can find your way, but just be honest with yourself and don't avoid certain things, because they're intimidating or because you're scared of the structure. Just that's the whole point of getting sober is you're accepting what you need, and you're willing to put in the work because it's work, And that's why, just being healthy, there's so many levels to it, because I think sometimes people think, okay, like I'm depressed. I'm going to go to the gym. I heard that works. Dude, that's only a part of it. That's only a part of it. Well, I'm going to join a men's group. It's only a part of it. I'm going to meditate. It's only a part of it. I'm going to read, journal. It's only a part of it. Being healthy and having a healthy mindset is a culmination of so many different things. It's work. And, the work feels good. It gives you a lot of purpose. It gives you a lot of structure. It'll get you off the couch, but you got to do the work. And movement to me and working out is a huge fucking part of it because a lot of things, a lot of men lack, not just addicts and alcoholics, is confidence. You've lost your confidence. And without confidence, you can't lead. You can't lead your family. You have to build confidence. If you're, scared to work out and maybe something's not for you, let me tell you something. There is a style of movement and a style of exercise for everybody. You just have to find what's yours.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And in Rich Roll's book, he talks about it a lot, which is mood follows action. And it's so true. And you're right, because you could say, oh, I'm angry, I'm going to go to the gym. And that might not be serving to you, right? Like it might need to be expressed or, in this different way. But I do agree with you that the confidence thing, and I started jiu-jitsu at 33, 34, somewhere in that world. And the confidence it gave me at that point, a full-grown man with a mortgage and a kid and all these things, and I'm a man. And I was like, oh. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. And then what it does for my daughter who's 10 and my son who's, she'll be like, I'm proud of myself. I'm like, yeah.
You should be.
It is. And you don't have to do jiu-jitsu you have to find your version of something that makes you feel proud of yourself. That when you walk away, you're fucking tired, you're beat up, and it could be a run, it could be a ruck, it could be whatever it is, but you've lost, and that's okay, right? Like society, not to say like it's meant to break men down, but sometimes it feels like that.
Totally.
Sometimes it feels like the game is a little fucking rigged.
A little bit.
And showing up and being an outlier is not what whatever you want to call it wants, right?
Yeah.
And showing up and stepping up and showing up and stepping up and doing it on repeat, and and then the fucking when you in your case with relapsing or you fall off that grind, you stop cold plunging for a couple of days, and all of a sudden you get like I went through a season where I was like, this is not like and the fucked up part of it is like it. Right, like because you have the body of work to say, like I have felt better than this. Right. Like crushing a sleeve of fucking Chips Ahoy cookies and not being at all concerned of what I'm consuming and my lack of movement is so detrimental to the growth. But then also at the same time, it's like, but maybe this is the season of life I'm just in, and I need to kind of accept that this is the season of life I'm in.
And you also learn throughout that journey of having that book of I know I can cold plunge. The answers.
Yes.
You're able.
Yes.
To, what to do.
But it's funny because even in those mornings where I was in like not in this current season, in the previous season of my life, I knew the answer. I set my alarm every fucking day, no question. I set my alarm, and I hit fucking snooze.
Yeah.
And I was like, not today.
Yeah.
But the thing is, even if it was that sliver, I still showed up. Yeah. I still showed up to set the alarm. And you can catch that lightning in a bottle, and then all of a sudden, now you're off to the races. And maybe that's for 6 months, maybe that's for a year, maybe it's for 5 years. I don't know. Right. But if you could just, and again, for me, showing up was just me setting the alarm. Yeah. It was like I had to start all over again.
Yeah, but the thing about that too is like, you know, you take time off from jiu-jitsu, right? You take time off from cold plunging or working out or whatever, and you know what to do to get
Funny
back
thing was,
into it.
jiu-jitsu was the only thing I didn't take time off from.
good.
It's the only thing I did not take time off. I was like, no, that's the one thing I'm not. I stopped running. I stopped doing some other the cold plunge, the sauna. But I was like, jiu-jitsu. I mean, it wasn't as frequent as I needed or wanted to be, but I did not stop doing that. You know, which I think says something to the earlier point of you have to find the thing that you just want to constantly keep on doing.
Well, it's that, but it's also, you know, especially when you have kids, it's important they see that you're getting better at something, like you're playing a sport. You know, you're working hard, even though you're a dad, and even though you know you're this grown up, you're still trying to get better at something.
Yeah,
just like they are.
Yeah,
you know, you're learning how to do something, and you're getting better at it. Like when I see people first start working out, and they're kind of a mess, and the form's a mess, and then all of a sudden it's not, and they start getting better at it. They just change. They just fucking become this new version where they're now addicted to getting better at something.
Yeah.
And that's such a good addiction. And yeah, you know, sometimes it could be consuming. Like I've gone through phases where, you know, my house was all about me and it was all about my personal growth. And that had to be checked. You know, and you got to check that too.
Yeah.
You know, you got to make sure everybody in the house is getting their time to take care of themselves.
Yeah.
You know.
But you talked about, you started this stream of thought with there's different phases to personal development, and you're spot on with that. You climb these staircases. For me, it's like staircases and landings. And you climb these staircases, and then you get to this proverbial finish line of a landing where you're like, but then you realize like, oh yeah, I just climbed the next, right? Yeah. So like the next version of you requires the next version of you now. Yes. So you have to keep on showing up for that next version of you, embodying it, right? Like the old fake it till you make it, but it's like act as if, show up in the version of you that you ultimately see yourself being now. And it goes to your earlier point, and then God will, whatever term you want to use, will provide the reciprocal action to you showing up.
And then what you just did was you manifested it. And then, because, you know, I think people, at least this is the way I see manifesting, right? A lot of people get confused. You know, they're driving in their car on the way home from work, and a song comes on, and they start to see themselves on a yacht or this and that. But then they get home, and they don't do anything about it, and their day just goes on. For me, manifesting is speaking it, and it's taking action towards it. And I know it's not going to come right away, but I'm talking about it. I'm trying to get there, and I'm probably going to fail on the way a few times. But eventually, I truly believe I'm going to get there. You know, I really do. I think about it all the time, things where I want to be, what I want for my family. And I really believe that by speaking it and working towards it, I will get there. I really do believe that I'm providing for the universe and I'm providing for God, and God will provide for me in turn.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And it becomes a totally different dynamic in the visioning this version of life, and then all of a sudden you start to interface with it in 3D reality, and when it's not there, right. It's like, but how am I supposed to like believe this? Do you think it goes kind of to the idea of it ever being enough? Do you think that doing that work is ever like you arrive there and it's never fulfilling?
No, but I get that. But then you just get to start a new sport. And then you just get to start a new sport. You know, I understand that, you know, once you're in a big house for a while, it just becomes a house.
Yeah.
You know, and I know that when you get the car you like, all of a sudden it just becomes a car.
Right.
I get that. But it was fun to get there. You know, like this journey you're on with Agora, you're going to look back and be like, that was actually the fun part.
Yeah.
You know, that was actually the fun part. Going, you know, trying to get there, trying to claw there, like you were saying before.
Yeah.
And you will get there.
Yeah.
And you're going to look back and be like, that was the fucking awesome. Like Kobe Bryant would talk about that, man. Like the fun part was the fucking journey. You know, not winning the championship, getting to the championship.
Yeah.
You know?
And then putting yourself in a position to win it.
Yeah.
Right? Because you could show up to the dance and not perform. But, you know, when the opportunity, you know, it's funny, I was, you know, in talking about Agora, and we're going through a really cool growth spurt, and we're going through like a lot of changes in the near future. And, you know, and talking to my business partner, and it's even weird to even talk about like things like this, but, you know, talking to him, I was like, when the time presents itself, there could be no hesitation.
Yeah.
None.
Yeah, right.
And that pulled from something that I experienced in the float tank. And it was a long story short. I saw this little white light moving, and I felt so compelled to fall into it, like really fall, free flow, flop into this. And I just was so drawn to it. And in that moment, I was hesitant. And the voice, which I now attribute to the voice of God, was like, it's not happening. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, but I want to go there. I was like, you can't go there. Yeah. I was like, but I want to go there. Like, I'm ready. It was like, you're not ready. I was like, I'm ready. I'm ready. And I was like, you're not ready. I was like, I'm ready. And it was like, okay, let's go. And there was a hair of hesitation. And he's like, you're not ready.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, when will I be ready? And it was like, next time.
Yeah.
And then my answer was, of course, now I have to have this, well, when's next time?
Yeah.
And the answer, next time's next time. And I was like, okay. Yeah. So I was able to extrapolate from that experience that when that thing shows up for you, there can be no hesitation, but that not hesitating is only due to preparation and having the confidence and knowing that you're showing up in a way as that next version of yourself now.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
That's a float tank right there.
Yeah. I gotta go on a float. I gotta go on a float.
That's a float tank. I feel like we could keep on going for like another hour and a half.
I know.
But we both have tuck-ins and beds and baths to do.
We sure do.
Which is important, right? That's the important shit.
I love that shit.
That's the important shit. To honor that. To show up and be like, hey, I'll be home for bed. Yeah. And not only for the kids, but for your wife too, right? Like, absolutely. And for yourself. Absolutely. Like, be a man of your word.
Yeah.
You know? Dude, this was a long time coming. We've been talking about this for a long time. And one thing I've come to terms with, I put out a lot of people saying like, oh, we should do a podcast. And people are like, yeah, let's do it. But I've also given up the idea of landing on a date. We got to land on a date. And I get the idea of the urgency around that. But I've come to the conclusion that it's just going to happen when it's meant to happen. Yeah. And I truly feel like this couldn't have happened in any other way, shape, or form, or else it would have, right? It's the old, what happened and couldn't have happened any other way. And I honestly am just so privileged and blessed and honored to know you.
I love you, bro.
Truly, honestly, I love you too. And it's just, I know that I can call you about, I just know that you're there.
Yeah.
And I'm so blessed that we've met, and I'm glad that instant moment, I was like, that guy's cool. I want to be his fucking friend, has brought us to this moment. And honestly, it means a lot to me. And I'm proud of you. I'm just so stoked for everything you got going
Likewise.
on. What do you have going on? Where can people connect with you? Where can they find out more about everything you're doing with Ace and Ice and Iron?
Yeah, I mean, right now with Ice and Iron, I'm pretty much doing everything through Ace. You know, I love being connected to those guys. So I'd stay on top of Ace. You know, follow Dave Regina, follow Sean Degnan, follow myself at Ice and Iron, follow Nick Menente. We got a lot of dinners coming up, a lot of events. We have a summit coming up, and you know, big things ahead. You know, and anybody who's hearing this, if you're going through some shit and you feel like you want to talk to somebody about some addiction stuff or whatever, you know, feel free to DM me. You know, I'm here.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's awesome, dude. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks,
This was great.